Ben, all the world's a stage, and some of the actors on that stage might include Trump, Palantir, Israel. What's the connection between all of these?
Yes, well, I mean, they say the world's a stage, the leaders are puppets. The question is, who is pulling the strings and writing the script behind the scenes? And I'm going to talk about Trump, but this is just as true in the UK, Europe, and elsewhere, right? But the big plot twist for me, one of the real kickers, actually, because, I wasn't... I didn't mind Trump won. The first term, I didn't think he was too bad, to be honest with you. I didn't disagree with everything that he was doing. But then straight out the gate in his second term, you had the announcement of Project Stargate. On day one of the new administration, he had Sam Altman from OpenAI, Masa Son from SoftBank, Larry Ellison from Oracle into the White House to announce for $500 billion to build AI data centers across the whole US, which is basically his mass surveillance and genetic engineering operation. I mean, literally, this is hellish, actually. You couldn't imagine anything worse. And as if that could possibly be strategic priority number one for any kind of sane administration. It makes absolutely no sense. And the madness has only increased over the weekend. And this is what prompted me to talk about this today, because they just announced that Palantir, this is from the New York Times, have been tapped by Trump to compile data on Americans. The Trump administration, it says there in the subline, has expanded Palantir's work with the government, spreading the company's technology, which could easily merge data on Americans throughout all of the government agencies. They say could easily merge. It's been designed specifically to merge that data, right? It's the reason that it exists. There's no other purpose for this contract to have been put in place. And it's in clear violation of all basic constitutional rights relating to privacy, free speech, national security, whatever you care to mention. And this is coming directly from Trump, right? So this relates to an executive order that was issued on March the 20th about stopping waste, fraud and abuse by eliminating information silos, breaking down barriers between government departments. This was apparently, according to the exec order, about eliminating bureaucratic duplication and inefficiency while enhancing the government's ability to detect overpayments and fraud. Interestingly, it does not include the executive office of the president. Can't imagine why that would be.
But isn't Britain also detecting overpayments and fraud? So are we seeing the same policy on both sides of the Atlantic once again?
Well, I mean, you could probably apply that to any government anywhere, right? But this drive towards digitization of everything under the guise of efficiency is that's essentially the Trojan horse that's being used in order to bring in this AI-enabled data platform that's going to centralize knowledge and understanding of populations ultimately, so that can then be weaponized against us. That's what this is all about, ultimately. And it's being built, in this instance, the Palantir instance, by this guy. Let's have a little listen to Alex Karp.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
So that's Alex Karp, the founder, chief executive, chief architect, main spokesperson for Palantir. Lovely guy, obviously, you can tell. And let's not forget that Palantir was established with backing from In-Q-Tel, which is a CIA venture capital fund closely linked into Unit 8200, and essentially operates like an IDF unit, right, as we'll get into a bit more as we go along. And he's basically there bragging about the fact that his technology has been used to, one, single-handedly stop the rise of the far right in Europe, what he describes as the far right. So that's narrative suppression and misdirection. Two, he describes an entity or a platform called Foundry, which was used to drive the COVID vaccination program. He claims that saved millions of lives. I'm going to say that I respectfully disagree with that, Alex Karp, probably quite the opposite. And importantly, he's talking about the US there, but actually that Foundry product sits right at the heart of the NHS IT stack, right? That's basically what is running the UK health system today. Same technology, same people, right? And entertainingly, or maybe slightly terrifyingly, the third point he mentioned in the context of the NHS is the digital kill chain. Right. So this is the cyber and meat space target selection to fight terrorism and protect democracy. And this is essentially exactly what you were talking about on Friday, Mike, right? This is the kill web, the kill chain. It's the same principle.
Right.
Yeah. Lovely people.
Absolutely.
Big friends with Zelensky. Okay, so and big supplier to Ukraine, and maybe this is why the war hasn't ended yet. Trump was boasting about the fact that he could shut this thing down in 24 hours, but apparently his friends at Palantir and elsewhere in the military-industrial complex are making far too much money for that to actually happen. And let's not forget, of course, that the other co-founder, in fact there were three, but we'll just focus on Karp and Peter Thiel today, right? Is the other guy circulating in the background who's a multi-billionaire, one of the first external investors in Facebook, part of the PayPal mafia, big-time funder for Trump, essentially got him elected in his first and second terms, I think you could say, arguably. And both of those fellas, they're on the steering group of the Bilderberg meetings, right? So they're actually part of this elite clique who are pulling the strings at the top level of global governance, yeah, and dictating terms to the rest of humanity. And they appear to be pulling Trump's strings, certainly, and I'm almost certainly sure that it's going further afield too. All right, so that's the kind of institutional architecture that we've just looked at there. But there's also stuff going on the kind of the dark web, the seedy underbelly of the internet that I think is extremely interesting. And actually, when you follow the trail, it seems to be going back to the same place, right? So this is going to relate to 4chan. This is an anonymous messaging board, the supposed Wild West of the internet. It's where if you ever see screen grabs of messages that look a little bit like this and have got, these kind of memes, the soyjaks, Pepe memes, that kind of stuff generally comes from 4chan. And this site, which again is supposedly completely independent and anonymous, and the source of dissent and free thinking, got hacked back in mid-April. And it turns out that actually it's probably a Mossad operation, right? So we'll provide a link to this article. You can go and take a look. This is all over the internet. You can do your own searching, your own research into it. Just to read from the article on the Intel drop by Gordon Duff, basically says, 4chan hacked, Mossad exposed, the digital honeypot that created QAnon and poisoned the American right. He says, it's happened again. Another mask has slipped, and beneath it, the machinery of manipulation has been exposed. 4chan, long celebrated or feared as the digital crucible of unfiltered thought, weaponized irony, and anonymous dissent, has just been revealed for what it truly is. A covert Israeli and American intelligence honeypot, psychological operations portal, and propaganda weapon. Fascinating, isn't it, how all these things end up going back to the same place? So it was hacked. This is a artist reconstruction. I don't know if this is actually real footage of the hacker, but I think it looks kind of cool. Mike's laughing anyway. And essentially they did it in true hacking fashion. They exploited a security vulnerability in the website's back-end code. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I will get shut down by our CTO, who is sitting directly to my left. But I'll put a link to, there's a video which gives a bit more of a breakdown of what they actually did. So you can go and have a look at that over on YouTube. Few things of note, right? The first one is that they were actually, although it was supposedly, 4chan is supposedly an anonymous site, they were aggressively fingerprinting browser information to establish who users were through alternative means, right? So although you were supposed to be anonymous, actually they were really putting a lot of effort into trying to find out who you were. Also, it turns out that a bunch of the moderators, what they call janitors, were based in Israel and had links to the Israeli state and intelligence agencies. And crucially, this is kind of hilarious, despite being about 0.12% of the world's population, Israel accounted for almost 50% of all 4chan posts. So about 226 million posts on 4chan came from Israel, right? And that means that this digital crucible of alt-right politics, the home of the Q movement and supposedly anonymous dissent in the US and the UK over the past 10 to 15 years, was basically an Israeli psyop. Right, that's what we're looking at here. And it's probably not that surprising, given that Mossad have been openly bragging about the fact that they run the world in recent months. Have a listen.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. And the world is our stage.
Okay. Well, couldn't get clearer than that, really, could you? So that was
just to clarify, that was from 60 Minutes.
That was from 60 Minutes, exactly. Yeah. So it's a 60 Minutes episode which came out the back end of last year. We'll put a link to it. You should go and watch the whole thing. It's 13 minutes 33 seconds long, interestingly enough, and it basically describes the Mossad operation against Hezbollah, where they blew up a load of pagers and took out, I think, 32 people killed, 3,000 injured, 200 critically injured. A lot of people blinded, losing limbs, lots of collateral damage. Essentially, it was a terror operation, right? I mean, that's the way that I would interpret that. I think it certainly goes against the kind of rules of conflict. And, obviously Netanyahu celebrated this by giving Trump a golden pager. And Trump called it a beautiful operation, because that's exactly the kind of thing that he likes about the Israelis. Interesting couple of tidbits just to close off here. If you go to the video, I'll again provide a link to this. This was a YouTube video talking about the takedown of 4chan. YouTube translate Mossad got wrecked, which is like shorthand for we wrecked something, we destroyed it. Google translates that as Mossad really good.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then finally, the links between Israel and Ukraine, as we talked about with Vanessa and David Miller last week, really come to the surface because Mossad have actually been celebrating the drone operation that happened over the weekend on Twitter. And I would say that these are two united forces by the looks of it.
I think there's increasing evidence for exactly that. Thank you, Ben, for that. Very interesting.